Why is Jupiter this force? Why is Jupiter the way shower, the force in you and the cycle in the field that offers us some kind of pivot from fate to destiny? Well, Jupiter is intuitive. It sees the bigger picture. It possesses a certain confidence, faith, trust, and belief in life's creative possibilities and potential. Potential. I love that word, Jupiter word. Jupiter is a seed planter, and it's a seed planter, however, within the soil of our times. So you do have to look at the soil of our times. Will your seeds, your Jupiter seeds, grow in it? Will mine? And of course, that question's answered by the quality of the soil of our times. And what is the soil of our times? It's the karmic field. So when we look at Jupiter, what's wonderful about it is that it shows what could be. And I really mean this in a practically realizable way. I don't mean wishful thinking could be. What is seen as a possibility is only seen as a possibility in context to the karmic dynamics of our times and the other cycles. And if you're looking at yourself personally and you're going, well, what's possible for me? What seeds could I plant? Well, the inventory that you would need to take to get to that answer is also, well, what are my limits? What are my capacities? What are my capabilities? What could I actually right now do? What could I do if I change this pattern in me or that pattern in me? What kind of seeds could I plant then? And what soil? Where would I find the soil for that? When Jupiter goes retrograde, let's talk just a bit about retrograde mechanics. All those themes of confidence, esteem, faith, belief, risk, expansion, integrity, those go into a certain process in you, shadow process in you that is about, hey, why don't I have the confidence to do this? Why won't I take the risk? Where is my esteem at with this? What do I really believe? All of us on planet Earth, where are we now? And of course, answering that question through astrology. Well, where we are and where we've been for a long time is in the pressures of entering into an Aquarian age. We are in, if we went to the biggest possible look at where we are, from the furthest cosmic, detached space out, looking at our solar system, if you will, as a living energy pattern, as humanity on Earth, as this species that's evolving in that pattern, well, we would see that we're transitioning to a new era. In astrology, it's called the Age of Aquarius. Now, contrary to what many people believe, I wouldn't say that we are in the Age of Aquarius yet. I think we're damn well, close to being all the way in. But I think we got another 100 years before we're really actually out of Pisces, in Aquarius full on. And we are in the transition phase, which we could also call a dark night phase, a dark night process. And in this process, there are a lot of pressures unique to this particular kind of dark night. And what the pressures are about, it has a central theme. I mean, it has a central focus really. And that's about us becoming grounded in one world consciousness. Now, it's not that we've, never been one world before, suddenly now we are. We've always been one world. There's only been the Earth and human beings living on that planet, this planet, even when they didn't know other continents existed or, there were other areas that they could go to without falling off the Earth. If they went too far over, they thought the Earth was flat, So we've always been one world. The marker of the Aquarian age and pattern is that now we have to actually, through the pressures we're going through in this dark night process, we have to actually live like we're one world. We have to choose like we are one world, both from collective levels of choice down to personal. So I'm going to ask you something and just feel it out, and no right or wrong answer. This is kind of reading yourself. We're going to do this a lot during this whole entire series. So I've got to frame this up and let you know that we're going to do this inquiry a lot, because astrology isn't just about you and I sitting here and me telling you what's going to happen. It is partly that. But it's also, hey, how can we happen right back to what's going to happen? Where are our choice pivots? Where are our power pivots, mystical pivots? What can we do to take the fate of our times and the cycles and transform it to destiny? What are the options? And that's a Jupiter question, because Jupiter's looking at the bigger patterns. What's going on in the bigger pattern and unfolding of co-creation on the planet? That's a Jupiter domain. So that said, we are looking through the eyes of co-creation as co-creators. Now, I want you to consider, having said that, this question: do you make choices every day in alignment with the truth that this is one world? And it's not actually a question you can answer like that, really, because you'd have to take a minute and go, well, wait a minute, what does that even mean, first of all, to make choices that are in alignment with one world consciousness? Secondly, what would a choice like that look like? And how would I know it was that kind of choice? And I want you to live in that question. I'm not here to necessarily answer it completely for you. It will answer itself in due course. But for now, I'll leave you with this primer, that choices that are made in alignment with one world consciousness are choices that recognize that every choice we make has a karmic ripple into the collective field of life. That's one world perspectives, perception, and choice. What choices do I make now, knowing as one world, we are indeed experiencing something called climate change? So what choices do you make in that relationship of your choice to the global climate? And what choices are made for you, and what choices are unconscious? And this is where we want to be. We want to be in the inquiry, in the curiosity. This isn't about a judging process or a trial. This is about, I was born for this time. I was born for this transition of ages. It is rough and tumble sometimes, but I am here to bring light. I'm here to be a light bearer, perhaps a light worker, or my favorite, light technician. I am here to understand how to illumine and bring more connection through luminosity. That's you, or you would not be in this classroom. Because I know how the gods work. I know how synchronicity works. You don't find your way to this classroom, which is very Aquarian, unless you came to live out some co-creative measure of the Aquarian pattern in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're an Aquarius or not. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not how astrology works, per se. We are in now a continued pressured evolution. Why do I say pressured? Because there are consequences, karmic consequences weighing down on us that are increasing in intensity. And yeah, I would say the first one I would come up with absolutely is climate change. We have tornadoes now all year round in the south of my country. Hey, it's Christmas, there's a tornado. Unbelievable. And so that's just an example of what do I mean by pressure? I mean that. And then we could go to political pressures. We could go to wars, right? But I think you already start to feel me. You already feel this. You feel like no matter, it's like kind of trying to get comfortable in a chair that's never going to be comfortable. You shift around and shift around and shift around, and this Aquarian chair is like, this is just the times, man. And that's not necessarily to say I am not going to guide you to some comfort. I absolutely am. But the way to that comfort is through this. It's through a new level of consciousness. Now, what determines your level of consciousness? I'm going to lay this down, keep it as a compass throughout the whole entire series. Not just this Jupiter 1, 2 off here, but also the Saturn. And that's Your level of consciousness is based on two axes that I call the axes of empowerment, which is vertical, and the axes of awareness, which is horizontal. Both come together. You're in the middle, and that's where you will locate your level of consciousness. Awareness is insight. It's what you can perceive accurately. It's what you can know and what truths you hold and breathe with, create with, live with, that are genuinely truths, not illusions. That's awareness. It's when you wake up to something in your shadow, when you wake up to a dynamic in a relationship that before you weren't aware of or you just didn't see. Next comes empowerment. Okay, you're aware of a dynamic in a relationship. Now what? What will you do because of that dynamic? Especially if it's negative, right? Will you set a boundary? Will you be willing to leave the relationship? How vertical, on your feet, standing up in your power, with awareness, I see what's up here on the horizontal plane, can you be? Right there is your level of consciousness. And this isn't a compass, this compass of consciousness I'm giving you, that I want you to take and apply to yourself in some perfectionistic way. I want you to use it as compasses are meant to be used, to locate where you really are. Jupiter cycles are actually all about that. It's about locating where you really are and what you can perceive in the bigger picture. This is a big ass planet, Jupiter. And it is about seeing the greater holism around you. Imagine Zeus, Jupiter, on the mountaintop, looking down from that vantage point at human beings, at the world from Olympus, and going, oh, I can see the karmic play and factors of all the things within my line of sight, which is pretty broad and far. So every Jupiter cycle seeks to bring new expanded perception, seeks to take you to the top of some kind of Olympian mountain and have you look out at Taurus. So this is about levels of consciousness, which include awareness and your empowerment. And we need both awareness and empowerment to be a co-creator. Without both in balance, we could become ruthless with our power or totally aware, but lacking in any kind of action or capacity to do anything. So Jupiter brings this in the center and goes, okay, this is a cycle of blowing up your intuitive perception and seeing what's up. And in the context of that, now we're going to get to Jupiter themes. Do you have courage? Do you have optimism? Do you have faith and trust enough to risk a new choice? Plant a seed toward a new beginning. You see what's up. I've just shown you, and by the way, I'm Jupiter retrograde, and I'm totally taking you down into Hades to look around at what you could not see before that I'm trying to get you to see. And it is in this perception that we see this. We see our individual co-creative power, our individual co-creative power of choice and action. And we also see how that is in absolute, inextricable relationship with the collective. Every choice you make, every choice you can make or can't make is in relationship with collective dynamics. And that is something a lot of astrologers never really actually talk about, but we will. And it's essential to talk about if you want to understand your optimal, love that word, choices to birth the potential, love that word, of your life. Optimal and potential, Jupiter words. We've got a Jupiter vocabulary we need to learn, use, and understand so that we can start to speak Jupiter. And then when we can start to speak Jupiter, now we can look at, okay, I'm at a crossroads of choice that, yeah, does demand some confidence, Jupiter, does demand some risk, Jupiter. And I'm going to have to assess which holds the greatest potential, optimal potential. Did I say perfect vision being born? No, I said, what is optimal? What does optimal mean? What is practically realizable within the karmic factors and grid of life right now or in the future? Not what you wish could be, think should be, but what's actually something hey, this could start to grow. If I plant this seed in this soil, this could start to grow. So we're going to be looking at the Pisces, Aries, and Taurus seeds of this Jupiter journey of this year. And most notably as well, the soil that is available to plant them in. Because that matters just as much as the seed. And then we're back to what? Your relationship as an individual to the collective. The collective is the soil. You're the seed. You're the seed planter. Whether your seed, vision, goals, those are very Jupiter, whatever, projects or inspiration, all Jupiter, fabulous stuff. Whether any of that can sprout to see the light of day, absolutely depends on the soil. So I'm bringing in metaphors that are very Taurian. The farmer is a Taurian archetype, a Taurus archetype. What we need to do then, having said all that, to open you up, get you ready to where we are going, is we have to understand, indeed, our current karmic and creative cycles of life right now. You're going to hear me say the word karma a lot. So I'm going to need to define that for you in a fresh way. Because I don't ever mean karma from a place of punishment. It's a neutral, co-creative law of cause and effect. That is it. We can heap onto it shame, blame, punishment, and we do. But I don't think it's very useful. So as we move through the hologram using astrology as our compass and as our guide, I want you to stay in your psyche as much as you possibly can. I want you to stay in a technical viewpoint. We're looking at life systems. We're looking at karmic factors, karmic systems. This is technical territory. The more technical you can be, the more you can see. I promise you. The more you throw judgment up there and shame and blame, and well, you could have a distortion of perception, or you just might not see really at all what's really going on. What I love about astrology, why I have such a passion for it, why it's been such a fantastic tool for me and very much catapulted my intuitive abilities, is that it is a cosmic, intuitive, and spherical language that allows us to look at our life on planet Earth as the co-creative karmic hologram that it actually is. And we need to understand, having said that, what all those words even mean. First of all, cosmic. That's just seeing what's bigger than us, bigger than even Earth, but also holds us. I want you to consider that Earth holds you in a creative reality. And, you've got this soul agreement to be held this way. The Earth holds us. The sun holds us in its gravitational forces as we orbit the sun. We hold the moon as the Earth. So, cosmic, just think of it as bigger than you and bigger than us. And I mean that in terms of culture, society, and perhaps even the greater humanity. Cosmic. And there's a mystery in that word. There's a sense of, whoa, awe in it. Now, intuitive, what does that mean? Intuitive means seeing with different eyes than the mind. You better just hear that again. Seeing with different eyes than your mind. While the intuitive, let's say, faculty in you, or skill or function in your psyche may speak through or impress into your mind information, it is not. Intuition is not a mental force. That would be Mercury, by the way. We're talking about Jupiter. Mercury is absolutely the mind. But we're in a zone of knowing that goes beyond what the mind can do. The mind can perceive, name, create sentences, communicates, process, analyze, but it cannot intuit. So intuitive means seeing a more symbolic, co-creative, and perhaps one could say even archetypal perspective. Seeing things, I would even say as a technician, karmic technician. Just seeing the truth of what is, seeing the true nature of the creative forces on this planet, the true nature of the creative forces in you. Seeing patterns, and not just seeing patterns, knowing where they come from, why they do what they do, and what they mean. Intuitive. Now, spherical. That means seeing things as multidimensionally interconnected. There's a lot of ways to talk about this because spherical kind of brings in all of the creative dimensions of life into the room. So the earth and your life and everything in your life, it's a spherical phenomena. And one of the facets of multidimensional perception is, yes, your intuition. You see, there's energetics beyond the physical vibrational spectrum our eyes see. You sense behind that, perhaps we could say, or a dimensionally vibrated frequency away in terms of frequency, there's more than meets the eye. That has influence, that has patterns in it, that is perhaps psychic in nature. Everything is multidimensional. You are a multidimensional being. You're human, and guess what? You're also not. You're a soul. And then some, and everything in between. So, co-creative karmic hologram. That means to say that all of life on Earth is karmically intertwined. There's cause and effect that can be sometimes transdimensional, sometimes not. But either way, everything's in relationship to everything else in a karmic dynamic, in a cause and effect dynamic. Now, coming back to why I'm even naming all this stuff, it's because this is what we're going to look at. This is how we're going to see. This is how we're going to perceive. And this is what astrology offers, is the capacity, if you understand how to use this tool, to see things this way. So astrology is not for me some celestial system that is removed from Earth life. Astrology is actually what we live. So when we look at the cycles ahead throughout this whole entire series, we will be looking at what we're living and what's ahead, and the karmic momentum involved in what's ahead, and the karmic tipping points of where we are, and the karmic tipping points of what's ahead. We're going to look at all these things because it's what we live. So astrology speaks to something that's alive. You're alive. I'm alive. We have birth charts that represent the sort of ecosystem of an archetypal ecosystem in us. It's alive. It makes choices. It takes actions. It perceives a certain way. It has a shadow. It has an ego. It has a soul. It has laws of the psyche in motion. You and I, and in terms of using astrology, are alive. Astrology represents and looks at things as a living, evolutionary process. So I'm going to say this is really key to understand about every astrological cycle. The level of consciousness through which you experience and meet any astrological cycle is going to determine for you whether that cycle shows up as fate or opportunities and destiny. Let me say it another way. If you approached a cycle like so many do, from victim consciousness, that level of consciousness, life happens to me, happens at me. So let me use astrology to better language that. Okay, you can do that. But that doesn't empower you with new choices. It gives you different reasons to throw a victim party, which, hey, I'm all for from time to time. But it's not empowering you with new choices. I'm after you having new choices. I'm after you rocking your potential. I'm after you using astrology as a co-creator, not a victim. There's fate, to be sure. There's shit that happens to us. Totally true. We do get victimized. Absolutely. We have victimization experiences. Yep. But if you then use that to lock in victim identity, well, you just secured yourself a victim level of consciousness. So the level of consciousness that you approach any cycle through has a lot to do with how you experience that cycle, has actually really everything in a lot of ways. So my objective here is not just to give you stats and dates and here's this day, here's this week. This is when Saturn does this or Jupiter does that. I am going to do that. Hell yeah. But that's only to support you getting insights, understanding the momentum of, let's say, archetypal flow in the atmosphere, so you can use it as a co-creator. You're not changing that flow. But you can go, okay, this is the energetics of it. Now, to use it might require what? Some alchemy of me. I might have to look at my shadow. I might have to consider where I can't even see it and why. And we're going to get there. I'm going to give you some great examples of that. That's a Jupiter subject. Hey, why can't you see the greater picture and what's going on? Why can't you see the truth? So this next part of this session, we start to really lean into and turn toward Jupiter and Taurus. And as we do that, I've got to bring the real specific astrology into the room. So I'm going to ask you a question here and really take a minute to feel this out. This occurred to me, sort of downloaded while I was creating this outline and getting all my information together that I wanted to share with you. What's the distance between the eyes and the soul? The distance between the eyes and the soul is Jupiter and Taurus. Now, I hope that intrigues you. Why would Robert say it's Jupiter and Taurus? That's the distance between the eyes and the soul. Well, hang out, because I really feel the Jupiter cycle of Jupiter and Taurus is framed within that question. In these times of enormous challenge, why don't some folks believe what their eyes are seeing manifest right in front of them? Because a lot don't. Why don't we believe what's in front of our eyes? Because we could look to other people and like, don't you just see what is self-evident? But we can't really do that without looking at ourselves really as well, because there's plenty in our lives that is standing right in front of us and we can't see it. Why can't we see it? Why don't you see it? What I'm after here and how this relates to Jupiter and Taurus is that this is about the sacred recognition of what this realm, Earth, is about. It's about returning to, understanding, and embracing natural law. So this isn't unlike the Christian, even though there are dinosaur bones right in front of them, even though they have reconstructed with those dinosaur bones the skeleton of a dinosaur in a museum for you to look at. They still believe the earth was created in 7 days. we each are that person in our own way. And this Jupiter cycle, especially the Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, is about engaging the part of you that doesn't see the dinosaur and believes the earth was created in 7 days, and that evolution isn't part of the natural laws on earth. The reality is, Taurus being the earthiest of earth signs, it's a fixed earth sign, which makes it just solid earth archetype. We, all of us in some way, have really big challenges seeing what is just simply natural law, the natural ecology of this planet, the natural ecology of this planet's reality. That word, reality. That's a word that's going to follow us through this whole series. With Saturn's journey through Aquarius, the past, I'm just going to round up and say 3 years, because it just recently last month went into Pisces. And Jupiter's journey through Pisces last year, we were being prepared to expand via a mystical revelation for our times. That mystical revelation, in part, that both Saturn in Aquarius and Jupiter's journey last year brought, is a way to see life as it is, as an interconnected whole. Part 1. But part 2, the mystical revelation is that the earth is just as of much value as heaven. When we are in the archetype of Taurus, these are the truths. That this denser dimension of earth and earth reality is not served, and we're not served by using some quantum philosophy to have it disappear into waves and particles, or finding some way of just calling it all illusion. Why you do what's that? And I know what it is. It's the Judeo-Christian reincarnation of heaven versus earth, just now in neo-spiritual, quantum philosophical law of attraction language. And I'm here to tell you that does not serve your life. It does not serve valuing the preciousness of this planet, the generosity of this planet, the abundance of this planet. And it certainly doesn't serve valuing not only this planet's resources, but your own, because each of us are of the earth as human beings. So I'm putting this thread out. It's going to matter and grow in its importance. The mystical revelation isn't some going into vapor and suddenly becoming transcendent of the earth plane. In fact, that's not the mystical journey really at all. The mystical journey is be here now. Appreciate what is here now. Appreciate and honor Gaia and your spot here on the planet that she so graciously offered when you made your soul contract. That is core Taurus territory. And because we are so split in ourselves through our culture, patriarchal conditioning, religious ideas, and psychic templates of heaven versus earth, which are everywhere, not just religion. They're in spirituality, they're in self-help, they're everywhere. We are constantly in some kind of battle with the earth of us, the earth herself. The idea that we should dominate nature, our own nature, not understand natural law, act like it doesn't exist because it's just too inconvenient for our vision. That we somehow own land when, as the Native Americans, many of them said, the land owns you. You got it backward. So When Taurus goes retrograde, I'm highlighting active themes of that process. But I want to set up for you some way of you evaluating you in your relationship to Taurus. Because it's been my experience as an astrologer and also as a human, in the same cultural patterns you are in, that most of us suffer from a very wounded Taurus in us. How could we not, in a patriarchal society that calls money the root of all evil, calls sex and sexuality sins of the flesh, and still does, but in different ways now? It's the same shit. I want you to think of Zeus. I want you to think of Jupiter from Olympus, being able to see so much, the vastness of the world, its karmic complexity, as well as its potential. That's Jupiter. Jupiter's sight contains many dimensions of truth. It contains personal truth, relative truth, universal truth, soul contract truth, and mystical truth. So let's come back to this question. What is the distance between the eyes and the soul determined by? It's determined by the truths that you see your life through. If your eyes are so far from your soul and you're seeing something so far away from the soul because you're in a certain truth that's created that distance, this Jupiter cycle's trying to bring you closer, that the eyes would see and be close to the soul, see for the soul. That's what it's about. The truths you perceive through, and this is a Jupiter dynamic, are going to determine, let me say it another way, because this is what it really means, how you see reality and whether it is congruent with what's true for the soul. How you see something, how you see yourself. Do you see yourself? And how you see you is so far away from how the soul sees you because you live in a truth that you're not enough. What are your personal truths? Is that one of them? I'm not enough. I mean, it kind of is for everybody, right? And this is where we want to go. We want to go into this because in the Taurus pattern, there is something about understanding value, the value of what your resources are, what you possess as valuable. But this is meant to be brought to the earth market of service, gift, and exchange. This is where Taurus has got a sub-archetype in it called your, hopefully, mystical prostitute or just plain prostitute. This is where we do, yes, indeed, survive through resources. That is Taurus. And that can include soul gifts. That can include skills. That can include just what you possess as resources, whether that's, hey, I own a company. Hey, I own land. I own a home. I own a diamond. This is Taurian. And so what you see as true and what do you see truth primarily through are things that need to be considered. Do you mostly just look through personal? That's what a lot of people do. It's about me. It's a narcissistic approach to truth. Not that we should shame personal truth. Absolutely not. We have personal truth. I have a personal truth. I'm Robert Ohato. I'm 6'1". I have blue eyes. I'm a teacher. Personal truths. And then I could go to relative. Well, relative to me, I'm a man who's attracted to men. Is that true for someone who's heterosexual? No. Relative to them, they're attracted to women. Relative truth. Are all men attracted to men? No. It's not universal. Okay, cool. Now let's go to universal. Are all of us going to die? Yep. Universal truth. There is death and rebirth as part of creation. Mystical truth has everything to do with me, says Taurus. And you might not think that. You might be like, well, no, shouldn't that be Pisces? Yes, that's true too. But it has everything to do with Taurus, because when you see life through mystical eyes, and let me just say it a different way, mystically mature eyes, which is what Saturn in Pisces is going to be about, you're going to see that Taurus is just another expression of mystical law and mystical truth. The earth herself is. Now, Jupiter in Taurus activates a mandate to explore a new holism and a new perspective of holism that includes our earth home, the earth herself. So we're talking about the earth's karmic balance. We're talking about the earth's power grid, its ecology. We're talking about the earth's economy. We're talking about its cycles of death and regeneration. We're talking about the earth's karmic laws and the karmic laws of the earth's biosphere. We're talking about, most notably, the karmic laws of its atmosphere. This is Jupiter, after all, who is a sky god. This cycle says this Jupiter and Taurus cycle ahead says, look, it's time to take a look at the bigger picture of the Earth's Taurian truths. Truths that are about to break humanity in pieces if they are not embraced. So then we lean into our personal journey here with the Taurus cycle and Jupiter and Taurus, and certainly it's retrograde. And we go, okay, which eyes do I possess that can actually see this Taurian truth in this bigger picture that Jupiter's wanting me to see, and which can't? Next question, what would it take to actually stop our ass in our tracks as a collective and recalibrate how we are co-creating life here? What would it actually take? Well, here's what I want you to understand. When I asked the question, what it would take for us to kind of take a minute and recalibrate, what it would take is already here. It's already here. Once again, Taurus is not hard to spot. It's the most manifested and densest of archetypal creative forces. You don't miss it. You don't miss a mountain or a rock. The question becomes, what is limiting you from seeing it? What's limiting you from understanding karmic law and natural law and the soul's need for value, the soul's need to hold a currency in this life? So last year, Jupiter was primarily in Pisces. It dipped into Aries for a minute and retrograded back into Pisces. So I called last year the year of the cosmic mystical heart and love rebel. And that's because Jupiter was transiting Pisces, which has a lot to do with the cosmic heart, a subject we will take up with Saturn. And the Aries piece is about the rebel. It is about the pioneer. It's about a willingness to be an individual and fight the good fight of individuality. Also from last year, and I'm saying these things because they apply to this year, the karma of what's next depends on the global grid of creation, how we respond. We are co-creating so much. We co-created climate change. Come on. Can we co-create an arrest of that? Maybe a reversal of that? We'll see. But then the question becomes, and this is the question that's always involved in these sorts of crossroads, what will our bottom be? What will your bottom be in any pattern in which you are not growing? You're in any pattern in which your potential is blocked from birthing. What will your bottom be? This is the nature of the karmic grid now. This is the nature of the crossroads of choice. This is the nature of whether we do see the bigger picture. Jupiter is about the pivot. Jupiter is about, hey, I'm going to show you the bigger view, the karmic bigger view of potential here. We're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to have you positioned at a crossroads. And this crossroads holds a new beginning for you. And if you can see and understand what's required for that new beginning, the choices that must be made for that new beginning. Plant that damn seed and let's see what happens. But I want you to sit with all of this and kind of just see what hits you, what pings you, what triggers you. How do you feel from all of this? No right or wrong. And if you were to say, Robert, I feel doom and gloom, I would say, yeah, I get that. And I'd also say, look, this is just the beginning of an alchemy with me. So this is Jupiter. Have faith. Have hope. Believe in the light. Believe in the light. When Jupiter goes retrograde, let's talk just a bit about retrograde mechanics. All those themes of confidence, esteem, faith, belief, risk, expansion, integrity, those go into a certain process in you, shadow process in you that is about, hey, why don't I have the confidence to do this? Why won't I take the risk? Where is my esteem at with this? What do I really believe? Then we get to work. We get to hugging dragons. We get to loving ourselves into alignment. We get to knowing we're enough no matter what. So take the risk. If you fail, you're still enough. Ooh, done. Although, because this is a Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, there is a sense of being very mindful of resources. Whenever Jupiter goes retrograde, there's this inner gravity that is going to pull you in. I want to kind of frame it this way. Jupiter direct. And as Jupiter enters its retrograde zone, let me just give this to you now because I have to frame some of what I'm going to say through this graph. The setup phase for the Jupiter retrograde will begin on June 11th at 6 degrees Taurus. This shows you the actual degrees of Taurus that Jupiter will retrograde, through, as well as the dates. So the retrograde doesn't actually begin until September 4th. You got to remember, Jupiter's retrograde for about 4 months. So the setup phase is far longer too. Then we get to the midpoint, which is when Jupiter is in opposition to the sun in Scorpio. So it's Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, opposing sun in Scorpio, November 2nd. This is all 2023 at 10 degrees Scorpio. The sun will be at 10 degrees Scorpio. Obviously, Jupiter would be at Taurus. Then on December 30th, right at the very end of the year, Jupiter at 6 degrees Taurus will station direct. And this is what's interesting. All of the retrograde process from September till the end of the year then integrates in 2024. Because the integration phase takes us to March 23rd. And that's when also, obviously, Jupiter will leave its retrograde zone at 16 degrees Taurus. So this year is a crossroads year. It's a fate destiny year because what's going on here is that Jupiter is, in context to a lot of the themes I've named, and obviously I can't name all of them, but it is pulling us in. So let's just say, let me frame it from a different lens that could also be true. Let's just say you are somebody who is inspired to build something. For now, let's just say you've got a project, launching a business, maybe writing a book, something you've been inspired to do, a bigger vision you're trying to really birth. And maybe even doors of opportunity and synchronicity are opening for you. Well, I've seen this happen a lot in Jupiter cycles, in the readings I did, and also in my own life, by the way. So Jupiter would come in, you have this vision, you're rocking it. You're like, oh yeah, man, this feels so great and creative and expansive. And I'm going to garden this seed up into a tree. And it all looks like it's going to go well. And then Jupiter stations and goes retrograde. And sometimes someone comes and rips that seed right out of the soil. Some events happen. Everything goes a completely different direction. And what happens when we have plans and somehow something intervenes, sabotages it, whatever? What do we ask? Why? Why did I get this promised possibility only to have the door slam on my face? Now, the key is asking why. That's the first step to what's really trying to happen. sometimes it's like I've said, you're not seeing the karmic picture enough. All retrogrades say you're not seeing enough with your conscious mind's eyes. All of them do. That's what Mercury retrograde is especially about. So in this sense, Jupiter would say you're not seeing the bigger picture here. Or once again, maybe you're totally in a projection of what you think is an inspiration, but it's you trying to live someone else's potential to be enough. So it's a trickster buildup. It's possible. But let's say it isn't. It's usually because there are factors karmically that you don't understand that you need to. That's actually been my experience the most common. And the retrograde lets you sort things through, think them through, feel things out for a while so something can stall. These things may show promise. Sometimes it's to clarify a path that isn't meant for you for some reason. And sometimes it's to polish up details by giving you more information. But either way, this is what the Jupiter retrograde will do. So it'll pull you into the question why, which is what you should ask and live in through the cycle. And the outer world will help you out. A door will shut, an opportunity will suddenly fall out. That seemed like it was absolutely going to happen. Jupiter is going to station retrograde on September 4th. And this is when that why is going to really ignite. What's trying to happen is a bigger picture, bigger than the one you thought you were looking at, possibly, is trying to come up and for you to look at it. This is where things can start to break down personally. And so I'm just, giving you a sense of cosmic design here, because if you can see this is meant to be, I don't know why yet, but I will. And then you do get it. Sometimes it takes a while. But this is where you are called deeper to the soul to really explore the Taurian themes that are coming up here. And whether it was a cherished goal, or whether it was an ideal or career prospect, or TV opportunity, or book deal, or business venture, or relationship, or future whatever, that suddenly stalls. It doesn't always stall out and die. Sometimes it just stalls and then things recalibrate or more fill in, and then it goes forward. But I would just surrender to it, frankly. And then stay in the why intuitively. Don't ask that if you can help it from your victim. That won't help. But if you can ask why from the curious detective in you, that will. It's a time for all of us to actually check in with, what does bigger mean for me? What do I need in terms of resources for my stability to be a creative co-creator and stabilized enough to do that? What do you need for your own sense of nourishment, beauty, safety, security, and survival? Those are Taurus issues. What cultural stories do you want to drop? I just saw, it's the second one I've seen, this feature on someone who bought or built a tiny home. And this person actually had built it right outside of Boulder, Colorado. So it was a very interesting video to watch. It was a little documentary on it. And I was like, oh my God, those are cool. Maybe I should be in a tiny home. I don't know how I would do studio work, but it made me think of this Jupiter retrograde. Like, what do you really need when it comes down to it? And for some of us, that might clear our field out. Like, I'm not chasing bigger is better, more is better. I'm just going to focus on quality. I think that's a general instruction here. Take a moment. And I want you to consider, based on everything I've said so far, what's zinging you, pinging you, resonating, confusing you. What's starting to land? Coming back to the Jupiter retrograde stats. So everything I've been talking about is going to build up in the summer as of June 11th, when we're really in the setup phase. And then on September 4th, man, there's a change in the wind. I think the crescendo of November 2nd with a Scorpio sun, to me, feels like some bigger thing being revealed. collectively, and probably deals in hidden corruption, some, at a collective level. But I also feel, like I said, I think this is about us starting to get wise to the way our media works, and wise enough to go, it's not going to watch you anymore. Now, I want you to consider how some of this might play out in your own birth chart. Let me riff around, shall I? Shall I riff around at this late hour? Because we've got the retrograde down, and I want to actually, speaking of Taurus, bring it down to earth. Again, you're going to have the stats and all that in your outline. I will put up this up in your outline as well, so you're able to see the archetypes connected to Taurus. This could be useful. It could show where Jupiter will be offering a retrograde process in terms of an archetype possibility. And there's a few I'm going to talk about anyway. But what I want to do next is get in the dirt. It's Taurus, we have to.